Okay, I think we will begin. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Mobility Ways webinar. My name is Sam Hunt, and I look after commercial real estate here at Mobility Ways. I'm pleased to be hosting this session on the role of transport within BREEAM. As most of you will know, BREEAM is one of the world's leading sustainability assessment methods for buildings. It's becoming increasingly important, not just for developers, but also for occupiers and investors who really want to understand and improve the performance of their assets. The BREEAM in-use framework in particular is helping organisations measure and improve accessibility, amenities and sustainable transport choices across existing buildings. And that's becoming a much bigger part of both ESG strategies and carbon reduction plans. Now, before we get started, just a quick reminder that you can pop any questions into the Q&A box as we go. Please do that, and we'll make sure that we pick up those questions at the end of Pepe's presentation. I'm delighted to be joined by Pepe today. That's Pepe Salazar-Vela. He's the Social Impact Lead at BREEAM. And Pepe looks after areas like transport, security, external lighting and noise. And his work focuses on making sure that BREEAM reflects the latest science and best practice to create safer, healthier and more inclusive places. He completed his PhD at Loughborough University, looking at how digital construction can improve the delivery and measurement of social value. Today, he'll be sharing how frameworks like BREEAM can help drive positive, real-world outcomes in sustainable transport. Pepe, thank you so much for joining us today. It's over to you.
Hi, everyone. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Well, Sam give a really great introduction for me, and thank you for that. First of all, I want to thank Mobility Ways for the invitation and organizing today's webinar. I feel really excited to collaborate in this important topic. Next slide, please. So this was my introduction. So as Sam said, I did my PhD in social value construction, and my research explored how digital construction and processes can improve social value in construction. So I tend to look at how sustainability through both a technical and human lens, how data, design, and behavior come together to create places that are not only low carbon, but also inclusive and meaningful for people who use them. So just to start, I want to ask you if you can type in the chat, you can type BREEAM in the chat. How many of you have been involved with BREEAM transport criteria before? I'll give up just a couple of seconds, minutes, and you can type BREEAM. So let's start. Next slide, please. So here is what we are going to cover today's session. I will start with a quick overview about BRE and BREEAM just to set the context. Then I want to look at why transport matters, how it connects to carbon reductions and well-being. From there, I'll walk you through how transport is assessed in BREEAM and explain key difference between new construction and BREEAM in use. We'll then look ahead to like a proposal vision from BREEAM in use version 7 and how we are going to or want to evolve and take more an approach to capture commuting data and continuous monitoring about our travels. Finally, I want to share these ideas of inclusive low carbon mobility and finally wrapping up with a few key takeaways and having some time with your question at the end. Next slide, please. Next slide. So quick introduction about BRE. BRE is the Building Research Establishment. It has been raising standards for over a century, combining science, research, and practical innovation. We are a profit-for-purpose organization, which means any profits are reinvested to BRE for funding research for public good. And also we are proud, like this is independent research, science-led approach, and we are helping we are helping the built environment to adapt and reduce its impact on climate change. Next slide. So now let's talk about BREEAM. BREEAM is the Building Research Establishment Environmental Assessment Method. It's the framework we use to assess and improve sustainability in buildings and infrastructure using science-based, approach that looks at environmental, social, and economic performance. All BREEAM assessments are independently verified by qualified assessor, so this certification is truly third-party and impartial. With version 7, this is the version that we are working right now, we are focused on net zero carbon, climate resilience, and the performance across the full building life cycles. And as you can see at the right, we have different products: community, new construction, in-use, and refurbishment and fit-out. So each of these products promote sustainability through every stage of the building life cycle across the wider built environment. And next slide, please. So BREEAM is truly global. We are recognized in more than 103 countries with projects across the world. We have over, I think the number, yeah, I put the number a little bit wrong. We have over 2.9 million project registers and 1 million certified with 2,600 assessors. Yep. So when we look at the map, you can see really how BREEAM is helping to create more sustainable buildings and communities all over the world. Next slide, please. BREEAM takes an holistic approach to sustainability. It doesn't just look at focus at energy or materials, but also how every part of the building contributes to environmental and social performance. In general, we have 9 categories: management, health and well-being, energy, transport, water, materials, waste, land use and ecology, and pollution. But also for BIU and the RFO version 7, we are including resilience. So each category has a specific credits linked to measurable performance targets. Then these are weighted based on the wider significance to score a combined, and the scores combine a final percentage rating. So now that we are focused on transport, it we're saying that this category makes up at 8.5% of the weighting in new construction and 5% in BREEAM in use, like for international aspect. So each category plays a role shaping the building sustainability performance, but here I'm going to be biased. And transport for me stands out because it connects so directly to how people experience places. So let's talk to why transport matter. And please, next slide, please. So one of the key ideas behind today's session is that buildings don't exist in isolation. Their sustainability depends on how people move within and beyond them. So transport is especially interesting because it shows how environmental goals and social outcomes are deeply connected. The, the way people travel to and from the building affects carbon emission, accessibility, health, and inclusion. And it's not just about the movement, but about how places work for people. It is also reminded that buildings are connected systems, not just sites or inside the building. It connects transport network, data platforms, and the community infrastructure. And through smart mobility design, we can cut emissions, improving well-being, and build resilience. So really, this category brings together people, place, and performance. Next slide, please. So if we look at the bigger picture, sustainable mobility or transport, it is clear that it sits right at both climate action and public health. Globally, this is reflected in the Sustainable Development Goal 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, that calls for a safe, affordable, and sustainable transport for all by 2030. So around the world, cities are reducing car dependency. It's not just about cut emission, but also to tackle congestions, air pollution, and noise, and to make the spaces more, make better places to live. So here in the UK, national policies such as decarbonizing transport, net zero strategy, and also Part S building regulation are driving a major shift toward active travel, better public transport, and zero emission vehicles. And here is where BREEAM comes together, which helps to align these global and national priorities and going beyond to embed implementation into real projects. Next slide, please. So now we are going to look how BREEAM assess transport. The overall goal is quite straightforward. If you can see, is to reduce car dependency, improve accessibility, and promote low carbon travel. This starts early in the project with the transport assessment and travel plan. These are used to understand how people will move to and from the site, identify their needs, and then integrate sustainable transport options into both the design and in the ongoing management of the building. Another key aspect is the local amenities and accessibility. We encourage day-to-day trips on foot or bike by ensuring that these key services such as shops, schools, healthcare facilities are within a short walking distance. And all this is about to make places that are not only lower carbon, but also more inclusive and convenient for the building users. Next slide, please. BREEAM also looks at building. BREEAM also looks closely at how building supports active modes, uh, public transport, and private travel. For active modes, this means safe walking and cycling routes, having facility like showers, lockers, and secure cycle storage to make this more appealing and practical for the building users. Then we have the public transport access. This is to ensure buildings have a good, safe connection to bus, rail, or trams. And we assess that through a public transport accessibility index or PTAI. And finally, private and EV infrastructure is also considered from EV charging points and car sharing schemes to measure that reduce single occupancy trips. So together, these elements create a more connected and inclusive low carbon mobility systems around each building. Next slide, please. So I'm gonna talk about the structure, about new construction. New construction is assessed in two issues: the transport and assessment travel plan. It worth 2 credits, and as I mentioned in the transport assessment, the point or the objective is to identify the needs in early design, but it also looks at the site context, access route, travel plans, and it requires clear targets and action to reduce car use and support the sustainable travel options. And in transport O2, sustainable transport measures for 10 credits, this is where the actual measures are implemented. So we have an option to cover public transport improvements, private transport options such as the EV charging or car sharing, and the active travel facilities like cycling storage and infrastructure. So together, all this strategy planning came together to have a better local mobility coverage solution. Next slide. So now here, let's talk about BIU. BIU, BREEAM in use, is designed for existing buildings, and it works a little different from new construction. It has two parts. The part one is the asset performance, which looks at the building physical characteristics and systems, and management performance, the second part, which focus on how the asset is operated day to day. At the moment, transport sits within part one, so it only focuses at the access, infrastructure, and facilities. But here's where we have this opportunity for version 7. We can improve criteria to having ongoing travel behavior and monitoring. So BIU follows the same science base from BREEAM, so it's consistent across all the schemes. So the first issue, alternative modes of transport, that is worth 8 credits. Here is where we look at the active, public, and low carbon travel option like EV charging, secure cycle storage, and car sharing. In the second issue, this is the part of proximity to public transport. So we look at the distance and frequency and quality of local services. Next slide. Transport Road 3, this is the amenities where we encourage the everyday services within walking distance and how the building is connected. And finally, pedestrian cyclist safety with focus on safe movement in the site and the access to it. So example that we have seen in BREEAM in use is how, for example, a campus can integrate that smart cycle storage when they can see where you have spaces, what are the facilities that they have the building. And also, for example, we have seen mixed use buildings that they go full points by creating shared access, having childcare facilities or all these accessibilities inside the building. So that's kind of a view and how we can award grades on amenities. And also the part of EV charging base, so how they people or how users have certain that they can park and have spaces where they can charge their vehicles. So while at the moment BIU focus on the asset level, um, we have a, we have reflect that we need to be more connected, accessible, and low carbon. So next slide, please. So this here is where it comes the vision that we have for BREEAM in use version 7. As we look ahead, I want to explore how we can take more data-driven and performance-based approach to decarbonizing every travel and provide more option and information to building users. The vision is to add real travel data to BIU framework, so it shows how buildings performing in everyday use, not just at the one point in time when the assessment is done. So that's it. That means that we have better use of the commuting data, bringing digital tools for continuous monitoring, aligning this with the wider carbon reporting and ESG goals. So ultimately, this will help to the organization to demonstrate the reduction on carbon reporting, but also information to the building users so they can connect between them and identify or knowing what action they can have in order to minimize the travel. Next slide, please. So commuting and data monitoring. Following the same point, one of the main changes that I would like to look at is how moving from one assessment to real ongoing uh, performance data. So rather to have a single transport plan, and the goal is to keep track of how people actually travel, how this plan converts into like a more living plan and being updating day to day, looking at how the commuting patterns, travel modes, um, and how emission can be affected across the year. For example, a business park might run a quarterly travel service and use simple dashboards to see how habits are changing. But maybe more people are starting after new facilities are added, or fewer are driving once EV chargers are installed, or they have like they are connected between building users and they can know where the other lives, and they can share the travel to go into the office, for example. So that kind of live data helps to spot trendings and measure progress and report carbon reduction in a more clear and transparent way. Next slide. The other part is the inclusive low carbon mobility. So not everything it's about decarbonizing alone in the full picture. This is more about truly future ready approach, also to be inclusive, making travel safe, accessible, and fair for everyone who use the buildings. In version 7, we are exploring how to improve active travel in facilities and amenities, thinking about inclusive facilities, accessible changing areas, and, for example, clear wayfinder for everyone. So this is part of where transport is kind of overlaps with health and well-being. And it's also about encouraging shared electric and active travel options that work for different needs. For example, something that we have been asked to review is EV bikes or adapted cycles, car sharing schemes, cycle sharing schemes. However, we need to do in this year like research and to see how we can set up this part of the criteria. So these changes is not only just cutting carbon, they also support health and well-being and social inclusion, helping to create places that where people feel more connected and supported. I think I was going too fast. Next slide. So key takeaways. So just to wrap up, uh, takeaways from today. First, I want to say transport is central to sustainability and social impact. I feel this connection to buildings, how people experience places, and how buildings perform day to day. Secondly, I believe BREEAM gives a framework to plan, measure, and improve mobility, linking good design with outcomes that cut emissions and make access easier for everyone. Uh, Third, I think there is a really good opportunity for bringing everything to everyone together at early design, thinking with real data and inclusive approaches. That's how we can create meaningful and long-term change. And looking ahead to the focus is on performance, collaboration, and digital innovation. I will say like digital tools platforms. It will provide better data and partnership to make travel decisions to and from the buildings in a more sustainable way. And thank you so much for joining me today. And I want to say again, thank you to Mobility Ways for hosting. And please get involved and ask any questions. If you want to share your experience, I'm really happy here to answer those.
Thank you so much, Pepe. That was excellent. That was really, really helpful for me, certainly. It was great to see how transport and commuting are being recognised as such an important part of creating generally sustainable, people-focused places. Now, thank you for everybody also for joining today. You're going to get a recording of this shortly, and if you have any follow-up questions for Pepe or us at Mobility Ways, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. I'm just going to leave it a minute or so for people to ask some questions in the Q&A. And before I go forward, I just wanted to remind people that we're holding another webinar on the 18th of November, and we'll be joined by Rory Sutherland and Pete Dyson, who will be talking about their book Transport for Humans. They will be exploring the behavioural science behind transport decisions and sharing some brilliant ideas about how decision makers can encourage more sustainable travel choices, including commuting. So definitely one not to miss. So thanks again for joining. I'm now just going to look in the Q&A because I can see there are some questions there, Pepe.
Yes,
So
yeah.
firstly from Emily, she's asked then, is there a way that BREEAM can be used with existing buildings slash businesses as well as new infrastructure, or is it different?
Yes, actually, BREEAM can be used with existing buildings. In this case, it's the BREEAM in use. Uh, Bre for as well with new infrastructure or as well with new infrastructure. For example, for existing buildings, this certification looks at the moment at how what system they already have, what is the infrastructure that they already have, and they can improve that infrastructure. So this part of identify the needs or identified what are the users, the patterns, and what are the sustainable ways that we can make a better building, a better building for building users to travel, to commute, and that can help. That can be done with BREEAM use. And for example, projects, they can use like a combination of BREEAM use, new construction for other buildings, and they can be part of one big like asset.
Excellent. Thank you, Pepe. Next question is from an anonymous attendee asking, how is the delivery of actions set out within a travel plan? How is it monitored and enforced? So how is the delivery of actions set out within a travel plan monitored and enforced?
Yes, in this term, BREEAM is not too prescriptive. It has a guideline on how to make a travel assessment and travel plan, like a minimum requirements of what you need to look in the project. So this is more about the project engaging with the communities, with the building users. So in this case, um, in the assessment and travel plan, you will need to report or you will need to demonstrate what are the needs and what are the options and potential opportunities and how we can improve the transport for the building users. And it's not mandatory, but then you have the second part or the other parts of implementations that you get the points according to those implementations. So it's up to the assessor and to projects kind to have this coherence, like, okay, this is what the travel plan is telling me, the assessment, and I'm doing this improvement or these installations because this is what the projects need. It's just not to put like cycler storage uh, or having like a lot of spaces, but maybe the place is not worth for that like that.
Thank you very much. This is one that I'm interested in. Can you explain the credits? I
Yes,
noticed it's sort of quite relevant to us then. So this is just me expanding on the question. You had a slide on sustainable transport assessment, which was 2 credits, and then sustainable travel initiatives, and you had in there active travel initiatives, public transport initiatives, and private transport initiatives, and there was 10 credits that could be achieved from that part. So would you mind just expanding on that a bit for me, please?
yes, sure. I mean, we have the BREEAM new construction. This is, as you said, 2 sections. The first is this part. Let me just give me a second. The first part is this about transport assessment and transport plan. So the point is to have at early design like this engagement with the building, with the potential building users and the community. So in order to assess the building, what is relevant, what are the aspects that we are going to look at the sustainable transport implementations. And this is kind of, I mean, the evidence that what we are looking is like an assessment that is happening no later at concept design stage. This is for new buildings and travel plan in order to communicate or to influence the travel decisions. And basically this is to credits part of transport. And in new construction as well, we have kind of a like a mixed calculation. And we have a table of sustainable options that worth around 17 points. So we have divide potential transport measures like improve uh, the public transport accessibility index. This can be for through negotiations with local boss, implementing a new local service, or just demonstrating that there is an increase of accessibility. In the private transport modes, we have this part of providing electric charging stations of minimum of 7 kilowatts for more than 10% of the total car parking site. Also, we can set up car sharing groups, raising awareness. And in the part of active travel, this will be about the cycling routes installing compliant cycling storage, providing, for example, compliant facilities, showers, changing facilities, lockers, drying spaces, and considering the existing amenities. And for example, new buildings can provide new accessible amenities. As I mentioned, this could be uh, outlets for, food outlets, access to cash, access to outdoor open space, access to recreation and leisure centers, community facilities, and something like that. In BREEAM in use, it's quite similar, but it has a different structure. BREEAM in use is more about questions. So we have 4 issues, and in this question, for example, in the first issue that is about alternative modes of transport, we have the question about what provision are available for alternative modes of transport, and it has, like, for example, eh, a list of, yeah, we have 2 compliant cycle facilities, we have additional electric car recharging station. So if you answer those questions, like, yes, we have that, you get a number of credits. So that's is summing up, and at the end you will have like a total score or total grades for transport.
Excellent. Thank you very much for explaining that in detail, Pepe. Next question is from Claire Jones. I think maybe this is part of the question. Cycling infrastructure for adaptive bikes. Yeah, maybe Claire can just follow up on what that means as a question, and I can ask it in a minute. From Wyndham Williams, we are trying to develop a new community transport delivery model for hyper-rural Pembrokeshire in Wales. Can you help? Not sure if that question is for us or if it's for Pepe, but I'm very happy to follow up on that afterwards with you, Wyndham. And you also asked another question, will the presentation be shared? And yes, it will, to everybody. A question here from an anonymous attendee. What are the tools to measure real transport needs linked with building use?
So I think this is really important and timely question, because at the moment, as you see, BREEAM in use, it's considering the asset, the actual asset, but know how it how not how the use of the asset, that the management of the assets. So there are, like, mobility ways platforms that actually help with that. We are not going to put mandatory platforms or tools, but all these tools, digital tools that can provide real data and can help uh, companies and users to have better decisions. There will be, like, um, I think the evidence that we will need to have at the use of the buildings in order to award grades. But this is just like the potential idea in order to improve BREEAM in use for the next version.
Perfect. Thank you, Pepe. This is one from Guru Gopal, and they say, "Hi, Pepe. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. I'm a BREEAM associate and a Loughborough University alumni myself. I'd love to ask, what do you think is the most effective way workplaces can promote sustainable transports, and how does BREEAM help to support that?"
I think the best way, questioning about how organization can help, this is to provide maybe the places and information. I think if you have all the infrastructure, but we don't have information, and we don't have this part that facilitate to take a decision to the users, we are missing that part. But BREEAM is helping to support that, to ensuring that these facilities exist, and there is a consistent way of delivering and providing, like, sustainable uh, facilities or inclusive facilities in order to uh, people and organization can actually provide provide solutions and provide this option because this is more about options. Everyone travel in a different way. So if you have this option to travel, it will help to minimize or to support sustainable buildings.
Perfect. Thank you, Pepe. I think we're out of questions. So unless anybody has any that they would like to add in the box, I think we'll wrap up now. Of course, please do follow up with any questions afterwards as well. And just another reminder about our next webinar on the 18th of November with Rory Sutherland and Pete Dyson talking about their new book. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Thank you again, Pepe. Yeah, real pleasure to have you on. Look forward to speaking to lots of you after the webinar. Thanks so much. Have a good day.